How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. First and foremost, my royal family, I like to thank um, the royal family, first and foremost, for everything, for rendering your voice and for supporting this channel. And unbeknownst to me, in 10 days, I got over 1,000 subs in 10 days. I didn't expect that. Now, what I was tripping off of was it took me a few months to get to 10,000 subs, and it took me 10 days to get to 1,100. Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic? Well, 10 days to get to 1,000. Let me get it correct. So I'm thanking the royal family again. That was awfully fast. That was awfully fast, and I'm always going to be humble, and thank you very much. So anyway, let's continue on, my royal family, so we can get up into it. The sheriff, he got some shit to say. Now, this was a few days ago, but shit, it's new to me, and it's new to some people in the royal family. So, Omarosa got people up in their feelings. And they was talking shit and talking greasy about Omarosa. And every time they talk shit and they talk greasy, she busts out one of them juicy ass tapes. And I love it. Do I trust Omarosa? Absolutely not. Oh, no. I ain't forgot. I ain't lost sight. I know what she did. I know she turned her back on us a long time ago. But to make Trump wiggle, oh, hell yeah. I'm supporting Omarosa to the fullest. So, now we got the ex-sheriff. I get that mixed up sometimes. I know that you ain't about shit. But I got to get used to saying ex-sheriff, disgraceful ex-sheriff David Cooning Clark. So he want to add his little 10 cent in it, or whatever he call himself adding in this. And he's being used, but he's holding on for dear life. So I have some juicy stuff for y'all to listen to, and we're gonna hear what he got to say. I took out the unnecessary stuff, but you're gonna listen to the necessary. So let's roll with it.
Out the news for us and giving us how we should think about these things. I'm looking at all the coverage of the Omarosa Tapegate stuff, and there's lots of debate about what is out there, whether there is a tape or isn't a tape. These accusations that whether there's a tape or not, it's just a fact that Donald Trump must be a racist. How do you process all of this stuff that's going on in the media?
Yeah, it's been interesting. It really has. My experience here with the president himself, I worked on the campaign, got to know him very well, and then after he was sworn in, he still kept in touch with me. I kept in touch with him. So I kind of know him, and he doesn't have a racist bone in his body. We all know this is political, but speaking to Omarosa, I know her well, too. I know her personally. Met her on the campaign, talked to her a lot, met her after the inauguration when she was in the White House. I got to know both of these people. And, I heard the other day that, that she was coming out with this book and some of the accusations she made, I thought, I don't know if I could say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I thought, what a rat bastard, because the president has been nothing but loyal to her. She feigned loyalty to him. And then all of a sudden, when things didn't go her way, she crapped on him. And it's despicable. The woman's not believable. She's always been a hanger-on. She's always had a flair for the dramatic. She's trying to sell a book. We all know what happens when you sell a book. I have a book come out a couple of years ago. I went on a book tour. But what people want to know when you do a book tour and you're going to do a nonfiction book, they want to know if you're believable. They want to know that your heart is pure, and they want to know that your hands are clean if you're going to make some spurless accusation, especially the kind that she's making. And I think right away people saw right through it. it's okay to want to sell a book. But if you're going to throw somebody under the bus, especially with some very serious charges that she's made, I mean, now she's saying the president made some disparaging remark about Puerto Ricans. You know, she said he used the N-word the other day. The only group that hasn't said that he's talked disparagingly about is gays, and I'm sure that'll come out in the next couple of weeks too. But you know, again, to bite the hand that feeds you, you know, he's carried her whole career, to turn around and backstab him like she did, I thought was despicable. But I think all of America is seeing. I mean, this book tour has been a disaster, and rightfully so, because she is doing this obviously with an agenda, and it isn't just to sell books. She's now upset with the White House, and there's plenty of people in the White House that she could have done this in her book with. She should have just stayed away from the president, because the president has done nothing but good for her.
Yeah, you know what? I definitely agree with you on that. I mean, it seems so completely vindictive to record your coworkers in this manner. Even during the campaign, it seems like some of these recordings were made. That's so devious. I mean, it's just what I mean, this was during the campaign. I think some of these were probably recorded. How manipulative. I mean, what was she thinking to do with them? You know?
Well, that means, I'm sorry to cut you off. It demonstrates to me that she was up to something. She was scheming. And she had something in mind like this all along. But that's why, and this is the person I know. This is the Omarosa that I know. So I wasn't shocked. I wasn't surprised. And as soon as I found out that she either left the White House or was fired or whatever anybody wants to say, I don't really get into that. That's inside baseball as to how and why she left. But I said to myself, oh boy, here we go, because I know the kind of person she is, and I knew that she was going to turn around, you know, and of course publishers like tell-all books, but like I said, you got to be believable, and she could have done something different. There's other people she could have taken this out on, but for her to, again, and that's why I called her a snake in a tweet the other day. She's like a snake in the grass. They slither around. You don't know they're there. Snakes are very stealth. Then all of a sudden, you got your back turned, or you step on them, and they jump up and bite you. And that's exactly what she did to the president.
You know, Dennis Prager, the conservative talk show host, said that of the flaws that a human being can have, one of the worst is ingratitude. It's an ugly personality trait. It also makes one unhappy, and that would seem to be Omarosa. I want to just read you something. We don't have the clip yet because it just happened, but Lynn Patton, who works for the Department of Housing and Urban Development, went on Laura Ingraham tonight and talked about this Omarosa story and seems to have laid out some facts that need a wider airing. But she was asked by Ingraham, why was Omarosa fired? And she didn't get into details, but apparently there were some real violations, abuses of power, and Patton said, I'm quoting here from a rough transcript, that one time Omarosa asked her, she said, I'm using her words now here, she asked me if I was with her at the White House. She said that she had to go meet somebody at this restaurant on 7th Street, and we both lived across the street from each other on Pennsylvania Avenue. And we went via a White House car service to this restaurant. As soon as we walked in, she said, Lynn, don't turn around, but has the SUV left yet? And he was still sitting there, the driver, and she said, they're onto me. They're waiting to see if I come out of this restaurant, because it was really only 2 blocks away from her apartment. And it occurred to me what she was doing. Here I am, standing in the foyer of this restaurant with Omarosa, trying to hide. And I said, the hostess is looking at me mortified, because I thought we were actually meeting somebody there. We weren't to use government vehicles for personal, but it is her M.O. She basically said that Omarosa was doing things like using government vehicles to take her to her apartment to and fro for personal use, not for official use, and Patton was shocked by it. And that seems to be the case. The other thing she said that was interesting was that Omarosa blocked, I'm quoting her again, reputable Republicans, black Republicans, and influential members of the community, I presume she means African American community, to advance her own standing to the detriment of this White House. That's what I've heard from other people. What are your thoughts about some of what Patton has just said?
Yeah, that's her character. I wouldn't have been shocked. You know, like I said, she's got a flair for the dramatic. She exploits situations. It's kind of how she's been throughout her career, but she still has been carried by, now President Trump, but then Donald Trump and The Apprentice, tried to kickstart a career for her. And the things that she's accused of, I still say, I want to be careful here because a lot of that's inside baseball. I don't know why she was fired. I heard those accusations, but, that's not stuff that I have factual information on. So I want to just be a little careful there with that stuff. But some of the behavior that she exhibits, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by it at all. She knows that she's got one big payday. I think she knew that going into Inauguration Day. She could get in the White House, hey, I'm going to get one big payday. She probably knew it was going to be a book. She probably didn't think she was going to get fired, but at the same time, she was always going to come out with some, book, the tell-all with the crazy accusations. And she knew that there would be a publisher out there. Right now, the left, even though the left is onto her, when I say the left, I'm talking about the left, the lying-lipped media, I call them. They're using her to smear the president, but at the same time, when they're done with her, they toss her out like used Kleenex because they know she's got no credibility. So they drain they squeeze what they can out of her, and then they toss her away. And she allowed herself to be exploited by them, and that's why I said this whole thing has been a disaster for her. And it's her swan song, really, but it blew up in her face.
I mean. The other thing that's just amazing about the way that they've been behaving here is the irresponsible manner in which the media has been playing these audio clips too. Sheriff Clark, we've talked about this earlier in the program. They're offering no context to these things. Clearly, she's manipulating these clips. Probably removing all sorts of mitigating, information in them. Carefully editing them to, imply certain things, not even providing background information like exact dates of when they were recorded. The media's just playing it, like just throwing it out there. I mean, do you find this irresponsible the way that they're reporting?
Oh, hugely. I think that, that's a very good point because even for Omarosa, I bet she doesn't have dates, times. You have to keep great logs when you're doing audio recordings, especially when you're audio taping somebody without their knowledge. And I doubt that she kept detailed notes because she should have expressed that, and told the media, so the media could have let off and said, okay, so now on, I'll just throw out a date. October 12th at 2:30 in the afternoon, you're in the Situation Room, blah, blah, blah. Right now, Omarosa's got could end up with a legal problem here because, and I tweeted this several days before others who are smarter than me on this issue of audio taping things in the White House, but I said this might be criminal here. And I think by the end of this, she's going to need a lawyer. And if there are some criminal implications, I expect it to be investigated. And look, I have no beef with Omarosa. She's always been pleasant to me. I want to make that clear right now. I'm not dumping on her because I have some axe to grind. She's always been gracious. I've been gracious to her. But you know what? I never trusted her. I never trusted her. And every time she saw me at some event, by the way, June 18th, see, I know the dates. Now, I'm a cop, and dates are important. June 18th, there was an event at Trump Tower for the president came to speak. She was there. June 18th. What the heck was she doing there if she didn't trust this president, if she thought this president was a racist, if she thought this president was losing his faculties and she knew she had this book coming out? Why was she at that event? Because, like I said, she's a hanger-on and she exploits situations. By the way, let me throw this out there for a little humor here. You know that dress she was fond of wearing, that blue Make America Great Again?
Was that her? Or,
seen
I think
at galas.
I don't know. I don't recall.
Okay. Well, anyway, I met the designer a couple months ago, and he's not happy because he made this dress, a Make America Great dress again, very body-fitting. And he said, I needed someone to wear it. And I needed somebody who would wear it well. So he meets Omarosa one day, and he thought, hey, you'd probably wear this well. I'd like for you to have this dress. You know, she never gave him credit because his dress, he's a designer. He's a well-known designer. She never gave him credit. And when he told me that story, I said, yeah, this is the Omarosa that I know. Attention-grabbing. She's exploits situations. And it's just another, I added all this up when as it was going on in real time. Like I said, every time she saw me at an event, she came over, oh, Sheriff, I want to get a picture with you. I got a little tired of it after a while, but, I went along with it. But that's what she does, situations and to people. But, she's got nothing on me. And like I said, I don't dislike her. I lost a lot of respect for her after what she did the other day. I don't have any respect for her anymore, but at the same time, I don't have an axe to grind. But I don't like that she crapped on the president like that with no foundation. Look, I don't know whether this thing happened or not, but until somebody produces the tape, I always say, unless you have evidence, I don't want to hear about it. And if she knew, if she said, hey, I felt this way a long time ago, Joe and Rebecca, she had an obligation to come out with it back then when it happened in real time, and she didn't. She would have been more credible if she would have done that. But again, she was just making a list, checking it twice, in hopes that she could have some explosive book that would come out, and make her a multimillionaire. But this thing blew up in her face.
You know what, Sheriff Clark, I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you some questions about the whole NFL protests that are still going on. As we saw, a number of athletes are still, refusing to, stand for the national anthem, still, doing all sorts of things to try to protest. Now, this protest, of course, it was started by, Colin Kaepernick, initially about, or in response to, I think, the way that police brutality in the African American community, and then it sort of spiraled out to be all sorts of things, just in general. Tell me what you think of this and how it seems to be. We just can't even talk with each other about this. President Trump has invited these athletes to come to the White House to talk with him about their concerns. They haven't taken him up on it, and it feels like both sides are, dug in on this issue. Is there any way that we can bridge the gap here, or what should we know about this?
Sure. First of all, this is disgraceful, okay? What these players are claiming, they have no grasp of the issues. They have offered no data or no research to support their claims about this mistreatment by police of young black males. All right, and I've looked at all the studies. There have been recent studies that were hoping, including the Washington Post, including the Boston Herald, or Boston Globe, I think, that were hoping to find that there was some empirical evidence that maybe there's something to this claim. Nobody can find anything. And that's why I said when these guys are out there popping off at the mouth, all they're doing is parroting leftist, liberal, anti-cop talking points. That's all they're doing. So then they use the national anthem, right? Well, guess what? They turned off the fans. And you know who I blame more so than Kaepernick and some of the other ones now? And it's Roger Goodell. Because Roger Goodell could have nipped this in the bud right away. Roger Goodell could have said to himself, hey, look, these are workplace rules. These aren't issues of rights. Under the management rights of the collective bargaining agreement, the management reserves the right to make workplace rules. And they could have said, because they had one in place, you're going to stand for the national anthem. You don't have to sing it, but you're going to stand at attention until its completion. And he didn't. He buckled. He buckled to this leftist liberal movement out there, this anti-cop movement, and now he's got, and then now he stepped on a hornet's nest. So now we start the season. This thing probably could have gone away coming into this season. But again, Goodell made the rule, and then he backed off once again. So now, they got this big mess again. It's up to the league what they want to do with it. I don't really want to tell the league, how to run their shop. But at the same time, as a fan of the game, and I'm a huge NFL fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Been a lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan. But I'm turned off by this crap. I'm not going to sit up here and say I'm never going to watch it again. But I didn't watch as much football last year. I watched the Cowboys, and that was about it. I used to watch NFL football from Thursday to Monday night, but I didn't last year.
Well, we've got an alternative. We have college football where this
I
sort of
love
thing
college
doesn't have.
football.
Yeah.
I love college football.
Now,
So I think that what somebody needs to do, and I have to say that somebody I'm talking about in the leftist media, is start questioning these guys when they start popping off with these slogans, the injustice. Here, Colin Kaepernick walked away from a $14 million contract. He had the option in his final year. He thought he was worth more. So he walked away from that, never got an NFL job again. He's still talking about injustice. He walks away from $14 million for his final season. I don't call that injustice. I call it stupidity. These guys are prima donnas. These guys are divas. They're very talented, but at the same time, when I turn it on Sunday or Saturday or Thursday night or Monday night, I don't want to hear their political views. I don't care what their political views are. I want to watch them for their talent. But they're not smart enough to realize that, my sentiment is what the average fan is. We just want to watch them and admire their talent, appreciate their talent. They can express their political views. Do it, during the week. Get on your little Twitter or Facebook and start talking about all these injustice in the world. It's all nonsense anyway. But these guys aren't smart enough, so they're trying to get their book stamped, okay? In the hood, and so they feel if they don't go out and do some of these things, that they'll feel the wrath of the black community as a whole, which they won't. But this thing's a mess. But it's a mess more so not because of Colin Kaepernick's doing. I'm not saying he has no culpability here, but this is a mess because Roger Goodell doesn't have the balls to tell the union, here's what you're going to do. It's a workplace, and we'll find some other way to address your grievances.
One of the things that you mentioned there is they were parroting, I'm going to quote you here, the anti-cop messages from the left, from the anti-cop narrative. We are seeing this it really is a narrative of theirs. Over the weekend, this Antifa crowd that basically rioted in Washington, D.C., they attacked police officers. They were chanting things like this over just in Charlottesville. They were chanting things like "cops and the Klan go hand in hand," and they were chanting "no cops, no KKK, no fascist UVA" for the University of Virginia.
Yeah.
And then all cops are racist. I mean, these were actual chants of these giant groups of these people, most of them millennials, but I mean far left. Isn't this really concerning? I mean, how do they get off saying the cops are the Klan?
Sure. Well, let me kind of unpack that for a little bit. First of all, Antifa is wrongly named. They're not anti-fascists. They're the embodiment of fascism. They try to control language, control speech. They're straight-up cop haters. These are anarchists. They advocate for the overthrow of the United States government. They also advocate for the killing of police officers. So you know where their heart is at. Their real beef is with the police. It's not with hate. It's not with the Klan and the white nationalists. It's really with the police. Now, this weekend there was an event in Washington, D.C. where there's supposed to be some Unite the Right, whatever that thing is, and only a couple of them showed up because it's not really a movement. It's a fringe. It's a bunch of fringe lunatics. But at the same time, Antifa shows up with a good number of people, and when the event really turned out to be a dud, Antifa went and turned their ire on the police, for heaven's sake. They're throwing rocks and bottles and urine-filled balloons at police. These people are no good. It's the Democrat Party's fighting force. The Democrat Party let this thing get out of hand. Now they don't have any control of it. These guys are goons. These guys are thugs. But like I said, they're also dangerous. They're not protesters. They're not protesting. This is an insurgency movement. And like I said, they advocate for the overthrow of the United States government. So what I would like to see is the police executives. I'm not blaming the frontline cops. They're under orders, but I'd like to see the police executives use a little more reasonable force when it's time to disperse these idiots. Once the first rock or the first bottle or urine-filled balloon is thrown at the police, I expect these people to be dispersed. These were my orders when I was a sheriff and we were dealing with these clowns. And it wasn't that long ago. I only retired last September. My orders were all reasonable force should be used, and I underlined reasonable force to be used, and I said up to including tear gas, bean bags, the bean bag shooters, rubber bullets, nothing deadly force unless you can justify it. Because right now, they're taunting the police, and they know the police are afraid to confront them, and so they're taking advantage of it. But I think the first time because it happened at was it Cal Berkeley, where they destroyed property, lit fires, arsons, so on and so forth. I think deadly force can be used in those situations. Arson is a very serious felony. People can get killed in arsons. And so I think the police tactics are wrong in dealing with these thugs. The police showed up in Charlottesville the first time, a year ago, in soft appearance. In other words, they weren't prepared for a riot situation. I always make sure when I put my deputies in harm's way at these incidents that they have their riot gear on. And yeah, I took flack. I don't care. That's a tactic too. I said I'm not putting people in harm's way without the ability to be able to defend themselves. That is immoral for a law enforcement commander to do. So when the crap hit the fan in Charlottesville a year ago, these cops had to abandon their posts and run and get their riot gear because they didn't even have it with them, thinking that they're falling prey to this idea that, well, if the police come, and all their militarized whatever, it might incite the rioters. Well, the hell with that, okay? Because their job is to protect life and property. And in order to do that, you have to be equipped to do it. So I question some of the tactics, but the first time we get some police commander with the cojones, if you will, to confront these bastards once the first rock or bottle is thrown, they'll get the message. Trust me. These are a bunch of cowards, like you said, a bunch of millennials. They come with they come masked because they don't want to be identified. One university police chief made the decision to put the pictures up and information of the people arrested from Antifa, and he faced a lot of backlash from the liberals on it, and then he decided to take it down. But this is what I'm talking about. Okay, they got to stop this stuff. They have to realize their role in society, and once they fulfill that thing to keep the peace, then you'll see Antifa start to back off.
You make an excellent point there. The use of the masks, it's an intimidation, it's a fear factor. They're using the masks, they're behaving like domestic terrorists when they do that, really. I mean, to me, it's similar to why the Klan wore masks, is to frighten their opponents, as well as to mask their identity. So, I mean, to me, they're coming in very provocative, attire when they dress all in black, and they're all padded, too, some of them. And they're ready to start a fight.
Ready for battle. For battle. You're right.
So,
they come looking for confrontation. They don't come to protest. That's why I said I wish people would stop calling them protesters, and I wish they'd stop calling their activity protesting. No, they're not, and they're not counter-protesters either. They are an insurgency movement. They are anarchists, and if we're going to apply the right remedy to this situation, then we have to name it for what it is.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask you really quickly before we let you go. I know we're going really long here, but one of the big issues that I think that is causing a lot of the upset, particularly from the NFL protests and all that, is this idea that a need for prison reform or sentencing reform. How do you feel about that? About the push for criminal justice sentencing reform?
Yeah, I fought that thing on Capitol Hill 2 years ago, I believe it was. Went up there with Tom Cotton, David Perdue, and Jeff Sessions were leading the charge to kill that thing because it was very criminal friendly. Look, there's been no call by the American public at large, if you poll it, to go soft on crime. This thing is very criminal friendly. If they want to turn back on some of the onerous sentences that they were giving out for cocaine possession, I'm okay with that. But I'm not for emptying jails and prisons. I'm not for commuting sentences of people who've been convicted of some very serious felony violations. We were able to reduce crime during that period of time that a lot of people were incarcerated and justifiably and lawfully incarcerated and convicted. And as long as we had crime on the run and more people were able to live in peace, why would we want to turn back on that? Because that's what's going to happen, the law of unintended consequences. So I would say to the president who, wants to listen, that's cool, but I would just tell him, proceed with caution, because this thing is misnamed. It has ill intent. It's ill-intentioned. It's not about reform. It's about going soft on crime. These are soft on crime liberals that are pushing this thing. And and I wouldn't trust them as far as I can throw them. I'm on the side of the victim, and I'm on the side of the law-abiding citizen. I am not on the side of the criminal. And as a law enforcement executive, it was my job to protect the public and be on their side, not on the side of the criminal.
You know what, Sheriff Clark, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for coming on the program this evening.
My pleasure. Be well.
All righty. That's the end of that mess,
Our
folks.
first guest, as he is every
Get that mess up off of there. So, my royal family, it's nothing else to say. We just heard more of Coon Clark's rhetoric. You have no standing at all. What y'all are hearing, my royal family, is a coon holding on for dear life. So anyway, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.